wanted to just touch on a couple of things on the what's new. As you can see, there's a lot here, and there's actually a number of things that we didn't even put on here, like redacted for SQL from query error queries and some things like that that have come out in the last couple of months. A few things that I wanted to point out here. If you look over to the top here, the new features, access history, obviously we're going to be talking about that today. There's some really cool things. One is the policies referenced new column that's there. We'll show you that. We'll talk about that. We'll see some examples of that in Snowflake. Snowpipe streaming is in preview now. And so what this is there's a Snowpipe streaming API that allows you to write rows of data directly into Snowflake without having to put them in a staging file. So this will be really, really cool for us to be able to handle near real-time data streams. We'll actually be able to do it in a more effective way and in a more cost-effective way of being able to ingest that type of data into Snowflake. So that's really cool. I'm excited to kind of play around with that and do some things there. Error notifications for Snowpipe and Snowtasks are in GA. One of the other things that is in preview now is being able to return tabular datasets, return values in Java and Scala stored procedures. So you can set it up so that you can set up your handler as a return tabular, and then you can have that tabular data value returned in a Snowpark data frame. So really cool. The next thing we've got on the list down here, Snowflake alerts. This one been waiting for a while, so this is really cool. We're already finding some really cool use cases for this. What this is it's an ability to set up an alert in Snowflake, and you set it up similar to a task. So we could schedule it, and then we can use SQL to tell it what we want it to look for, what we want to be alerted on. So all kinds of things, like we've got a warehouse that we're using more on that warehouse today than we expected or than we're normally using. Resource consumption for pipelines and tasks and some of those kind of things. We can keep an eye on those. We can also do data governance and data access type of things. So, somebody, which goes right along with what we're talking about today, right? Somebody access this table. We can get notifications and alerts on that. Also, more kind of like data type validity and data quality type, we can put rules in place. So let's say, for example, we've got a business rule in this table, this column should never be null, or the value should never be greater than 5, right? It's one of our regions, and so we know it's always going to be between 1 and 5. And so we could put some, maybe we have some issues with some of the data that's being ingested, and sometimes we're getting some bad data there. We can put in some rules, some Snowflake alerts that tell us that says basically, hey, if we've got an issue here where this is out of range or something like that, we can have it send an alert out, or we could actually have it write that to like a error log table. So lots of cool things we can do. So Snowflake alerts, take a look at that. There's some really cool things there. As far as virtual warehouse updates, the query acceleration service and Snowpark optimized warehouses are in GA. So if you're doing a lot with Snowpark, you need some warehouses that can give you a little bit more memory and handle some of the Snowpark things that you're doing, like with data science and machine learning, some of those kind of things. You'll want to take a look at that. One of the caveats, one of the notes on the Snowpark optimized warehouses, make sure you take a look at that and you understand you can't have Snowpark optimized warehouses as a small or an extra small. It's not available for those two sizes. And from the medium on up, the cost is a little bit more than a normal warehouse. So like a medium, instead of a normal virtual warehouse that's a medium, would be 4 credits per hour, right? With a Snowpark optimized warehouse, it would be 6. So keep an eye on that. Take a look at that. Database replication updates, account replication, there's in preview notification integration support is there. So if that's something you're doing replication, take a look at that. There's some really cool things going on there. Data loading and unloading. On the on error, copy option now supports all file formats. Before it didn't. It now supports all file formats. And in addition to that, there's some new metadata columns for staged files. So you can use these, as you can see there, we've got one that's called file content key, one that's last modified, and one that starts scan time. So what that is the file content key basically would be the GUID for each row. So if we were inserting a bunch of data from a stage, for each row, we could have this content key, which would link back to the GUID for the file in the stage. So we could kind of keep track of which rows came from which file, group those all together. The file last modified tells us when that file was last modified in the stage. So when it got to the stage, when it was last modified. And then the start scan time is actually a timestamp of when that row actually, the job to put that row in Snowflake actually took place. So we actually know when it arrived in Snowflake. So some cool stuff there. Streams on views is in GA. External table and directory table auto refresh and observability billing. There's some updates there in the data lake updates. If you're doing anything with the external tables and the directory table auto refresh, take a look at that. There is the costing that's going to go along with that. So if you're doing auto refresh, you'll start to see some costs for that on your bill. So you keep an eye out on that. Listing discovery controls is now in GA. I'm going to jump over a couple of these. Some really cool SQL editor improvements, find and replace functionality. Some of the autocomplete it's been changed, and I've noticed it's actually working quite a bit better. So that's pretty cool. The other thing is the highlighting for selected words. So if you double click, if you select a whole word, and like some of the other code environments, if you scroll up and down and you've got that word somewhere else, or that table name or whatever that is somewhere else in your code, it's going to highlight every place that you've got that, which is very, very helpful. And I love that. Another thing, Python worksheets. Yay, Python worksheets are in preview now. So they're out there and they support tabular outputs. It's such a beautiful thing. So there's some really cool stuff going on there. In the security updates, SAML SSO parameters, identity provider, and SSO login page have been deprecated. If you're using those, if that's an impact for you, go into the Snowflake docs. There's some really good information there. There's a doc that gives you all the details on migrating to SAML 2 security integration to get away from that, so that doesn't cause you any issues. And there's also the improved error message for the login failures. You can get more information in a semi-structured and JSON format. That's in GA, so that's there. Number of new SQL functions, including some geospatial functions. I'm not going to go into the details of those. We don't have that much time. There's some new regions, and then always, as always, check your connectors, your drivers, make sure you've got the latest. There's a lot of new versions of those out there. So.
Hey folks, thanks for checking out this cut from our broadcast. To see the full show, click on the link in the video description. Also, check out our Learning Center, which has white papers, events, live streams, and short explainer videos on a wide range of data management topics. And of course, if you like our content, please share it on LinkedIn. That really means a lot to us. Thanks again for checking us out, and we hope to see you in our next broadcast.